how to handle uncomfortable feelings. Let's get right into this. Right off the bat, we want to notice the part of ourself that is aware and witnessing. There is a part of you right now that is just watching. It's just witnessing. It's not judging what is happening. And this awareness doesn't need a thought to say that it is aware, like I am aware. It's already the case that you're aware. And you just want to get in touch with that raw awareness. You want to not be lost in your thoughts, lost in the feeling itself. You want to just be conscious right now and just aware, witnessing what is happening, not judging what is happening as though it's good or bad or it's this or that. You just want to get in touch with the part of yourself that is watching and nothing more. And this is happening in contrast to unconsciousness. So you want to become conscious of the present moment. You want to just notice what is happening very directly, very, very experientially. And you don't want to ignore it. You don't want to distract yourself from it. You don't want to avoid it. And moving on, you also want to be very honest and clear about it. Honesty and clarity. You want to be able to state to yourself in a very clear way what is happening. I feel anger, jealousy, fear, sadness. You don't want to state it in a way that externalizes it. You want to state it in a way to yourself so that you are just developing a clearer image in your mind of what is happening in the present moment. So when you are, let's say, angry, you're not going to state to yourself, I'm angry because this person isn't doing the thing that I want them to. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. They're doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. You don't want to get into this storytelling and all of these beliefs that you have. This comes later. But you just want to state to yourself, what is happening inside of you, and that's it. In a very honest way, in a very sincere way, in a very direct way. And not only that, you want to say to yourself, this is key, where it is happening as well in your body. So I feel this in my heart, in my gut, in my shoulders, wherever it is. And you want to basically be aware of the feeling. You want to be honest about it, and you want to pinpoint where it actually is in your body. So you can notice that we're becoming conscious and we're becoming clear and we're becoming directed about what's happening. We're pinpointing exactly what's going on. Moving on, or not so much moving on, in contrast to honesty and clarity, we have distractions, of course, unconsciousness. Not only that, but we have things like deceiving ourselves, like saying that the reason we feel this way is because this person isn't doing this, or that we need this in order to feel the way that we want to feel. So we don't want to go into these elaborate narratives about how people should be or what we should have. We just want to remain with what is presently happening, which I'll come back to later on in the video. But next, we want to move on to acceptance, surrender, and actively feeling. And this happens in contrast to struggling, fighting, and resisting. So acceptance, surrender, and actively feeling. Right off the bat, the best sign that I've so far noticed that says you are not surrendering to the present moment, you are not in a sense of connection with the present moment, is body tension. You want to really get in touch with your body. Your body is ridiculously intelligent and is continuously communicating things to you, but you have to develop an ear for it. You have to develop deeper connection to it through maybe yoga, meditation, and basically bringing awareness into your body. That's basically the whole thing. You want to bring awareness into your body. You want to feel where it's tense. Is your shoulders up? Is your gut tense? Your abs are all tense and locked up. Your muscles are fighting and they're in a sort of stalemate. One muscle's attacking another muscle and they're just kind of stuck. They're kind of interlocked. Is your chest kind of contracted? Is your jaw tense? Is your forehead always like this? And you just want to notice this physical tension, bring awareness into it, feel what's going on there. Feel the struggle, feel the lack of ease, feel the sense of insecurity, instability, potentially sadness, anger, frustration that's happening there. Feel the overall lack of internal harmony happening within you. You want to bring awareness into it and you want to actively feel it and you want to untense that. And you're not going to do that through any kind of muscular manipulation. Okay? Think of this like a skill that you have to develop. You have to continuously bring awareness into your body over and over and over and over again to develop this skill. And I want to mention that this is extremely courageous. Actively feeling what is happening in your body is an extremely courageous act because we find a lot of comfort being stuck in our minds all day long. We find a lot of comfort in our beliefs, in our thinking, and we don't find as much security and stability being in our bodies relative to being in our minds, because our bodies, when we begin to examine what is happening in there, it is very complex and nuanced. It is not a simple little thing that we might take for granted as though we already know what's going on there. And in fact, when you begin to really investigate what's going on inside of your body emotionally over and over and over and over again, you will find a lot of very radical things that you simply overlooked because you just never paid attention to your body. You just didn't bring awareness into your body. You didn't actively bring awareness into your body and actively feel it. This is a very practical thing. You actually have to do this. So when you are actively feeling your body, you want to notice the physical sensations that are going on inside of your body. And these sensations are going to be constantly changing. You're going to want to notice that there's like a micro level of sensations, almost like it's just this complex array of ever-changing phenomena. Okay, put simply, there's just a bunch of feelings in your body that are constantly changing, and you want to get in touch with that. You want to get in touch, you want to actively bring awareness to a body part. Let's say your hand. Your hand is a fairly easy one, I think, because it has like a lot of nerves and stuff like that. But your hand is very good, a very good starting point. You can really feel how much change is presently happening inside of your hand, and how none of the feelings are staying still for even a second, and how they're constantly in this flux. No matter what happens, no matter how hard you struggle, you fight and resist, they're changing constantly. There's no real security and stability and just, I guess, rigidity inside of these feelings. They're just loose, flowing, changing, coming and going constantly. And you want to get in touch with that, not to make the feeling go away, but to investigate what the feeling is. Okay? Moving on. I'm going to come back to that though. Do not distract yourself and disassociate from what is happening inside of you. You have to learn to greet what is happening to you, or greet what is happening in you with a sense of love and compassion and acceptance. You basically, I said this in one of my previous videos, want to hold yourself almost like you're holding a baby. Like it's this precious thing that you don't want to harm in any way whatsoever, and it means a lot to you. Basically, you want to actually love yourself. Now, not only do you want to actually love yourself, but when you are doing this practice, you have to be very sincere in this, for lack of a better word, work. You have to actually scan your body. You have to bring awareness into your gut, into your shoulders, into your head, your arms, and notice just the energetic movement that is happening inside of your body, and really get in touch with it. Really connect to the energy in your body that is constantly flowing, to the constantly changing sensations in your body. And also, an interesting one is feel inside your head. This one is potentially a little bit challenging, but as humans, we are very lost in our minds. Our minds have us in a state of hypnosis, really, where we are believing every single thing that this goddamn thing says. We don't question the stream of thoughts actively. We are instead actively believing them. And usually this stream of thoughts is loaded with, say, anxiety, worry, problems. And this can change. But we have to begin to question what is actually happening in our experience. We have to begin to investigate ourselves with a sincere and honest heart. So don't instantly believe the thought that your mind generates. Instead, actually feel into what a thought is. When your mind generates a thought, feel into the emotional energy and the sensation of thought. And you'll feel it in your head. And you can develop this, basically. If you're having trouble doing that now, this is something that has to be actively worked on. But for now, start with something simple like, your body. And you want to notice the constant tensing up, the constant struggling, the constant fighting. This is a constant, okay? This is not, this is happening all the time. At some level, you are always scared. You are completely afraid to open yourself up to the world, to open yourself up to what's happening inside of you, to even open yourself up to the people around you. You are constantly struggling, fighting, and resisting against something. Whether it's a feeling inside of you, an external group, a situation, etc. So you want to actually directly investigate for yourself what is happening inside of you. And you also want to be curious about it. Get curious about your experience. This is not a little thing. This is not something to be taken for granted. This is an extremely rich experience that you're having right now, regardless of what it is. It is utterly magnificent when you begin to investigate it. When you begin to look at what a feeling is, what a thought is, and you can actually begin to probe into it, like sense into it and feel it, you realize that what is happening right now is very fundamentally beyond words, beyond any label or belief or interpretation that we actually give it, which I'll be getting into very shortly. But not only that, you actually have to undo the pattern that you've created of running away from your emotions. You have a pattern of just avoiding pain, avoiding suffering, which is fine. I'm not saying go intentionally inflict yourself with pain and suffering, but I want you to notice that when the emotion arises, when this experience that we call an emotion arises, you run away from it, or at least an uncomfortable emotion. You want to distract yourself from it. And I want you to be very honest and clear to yourself about how you distract yourself. What do you do when some uncomfortable emotion arises? Do you go eat food? Do you go play on your phone and scroll on Instagram? Do you just watch TV? Did I say that one already? Play video games, watch Netflix, porn, junk food, of course, or go hang out with friends as well. And you need to be clear to yourself that you are distracting yourself from your emotions. You have to have the personal honesty to just admit that to yourself. So you want to undo that pattern because what other option is there? You can't live, well, you can, but I don't really think you're going to want to. It's not going to be too comfortable. You don't want to live your whole life running away from an uncomfortable feeling inside of you because you're too scared to feel it. Fundamentally, the reason why you avoid these emotions is because you're scared. They pose some kind of threat to you, or at least you believe that they do on some level within yourself, and that's why you run away. If you believe that it was safe to feel what you're feeling, you would already just be feeling it, and these emotions wouldn't be seen as a problem, really. They would just be seen for what they are, as basically, I'll move on to that later, but you want to notice how you avoid yourself. You want to notice how you distract yourself from yourself, and you want to end that permanently as soon as possible. Now, I want you to put your awareness in your body for just a moment. Bring it into your gut. Bring it into your heart. Bring it into your shoulders. Actually feel what's happening. Feel that they're raised, might be kind of contracted, might be tense, and just feel what's happening inside of your body. And just leave your awareness there. Do nothing more. Just leave your awareness in your body, and that's it. Just keep actively feeling what's happening. Get in touch with how it's constantly changing. It's constantly moving, constantly changing forms. There's an emotional flow happening inside of you, flow of energy that is going to be constantly changing. Get in touch with that constantly changing factor and surrender to it. Be open to it, accept it, and actively feel it. Feel the sensations of it. And this might be very difficult at first, but over time you will have more courage and you'll be able to explore it deeper and deeper and deeper. You'll be able to investigate your emotions at deeper and deeper levels. You'll be more comfortable with this process. But you have to actually work on this. This is a skill. And you want to, like I said earlier, but I'm going to say it again, greet what is happening within you with a sense of acceptance and self-compassion and love. This is crucial, like a mother holding a baby. You want that degree of warmth for yourself, while also being clear about what is happening, not avoiding it, not running away from it, being direct, being honest, and also being warm and loving and accepting. So moving on, we have raw, direct experience. And this is happening in contrast to beliefs, interpretations, and labels. This is where we get into some of the more tricky stuff that isn't necessarily tricky, but it's something that our mind is always overlooking because we are too wrapped up in the mental story, the stream of thought, the ever-changing, impermanent, just constantly changing stream of thought. And this is absolutely essential for handling uncomfortable feelings and getting to the actual root of them and making real fundamental changes. I want you to notice right away, you have an idea of a feeling, sadness, anger, jealousy, whatever it is, whatever uncomfortable emotion it is that you are going through over and over again, loneliness, whatever it is. I want you to recognize that the idea of the feeling is only a thought. The idea of the feeling is not the feeling itself. What is the actual feeling? Spit a little bit. What is the actual feeling of the feeling? I don't want you to think as though you already know what I'm talking about. Oh, I know how sadness feels. I know what anger feels like. No. What is it experientially? What are those sensations doing? Like, what is actually occurring? And we want to investigate it by sensing into it over and over and over and over again. We want to understand what it is experientially. We don't want to go off a memory we have of what anger is, what sadness is, because our mind is basically recognizing patterns in our emotions, and then that pattern we call sadness, anger, blah, 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 jealousy. But really, all of these emotions are different every single time. There is a very complex and nuanced factor happening here that I'm trying to point out to you. But the thing is this is not an intellectual thing. This is occurring on the level of direct experience and raw sensation and just pure feeling. Raw, direct experience, not in beliefs, interpretations, and labels. So what is a feeling directly and experientially, rather than the idea we have of the feeling? So sadness, anger, joy, pain, etc. are all labels for certain patterns of energy occurring inside of us that are ultimately undefinable, constantly changing, and incapable of grasping and holding. I want you to notice that no matter how hard you struggle, fight, and resist these feelings, they are going to happen. They're there. It's there, and that this whole relationship to the feeling doesn't work. And the sooner you can give that up, the better. The sooner you can stop struggling against the feeling and fighting against it and perceiving the feeling as though it's a problem that we have to solve, the better it is. This doesn't mean that you don't try and make yourself feel better by, say, eating healthy, going to the gym, or whatever. Any possible thing. Like, this doesn't mean that you don't care about feeling good anymore. I love feeling good. What I'm saying is that when you are investigating your emotions and you're trying to handle an uncomfortable feeling, you don't want to view this thing as though it's like a problem. Like it's this, I don't know, like this logical thing. It's just, this isn't the right approach. And this is how humans are viewing their emotions, as though like anger is this bad thing, like you shouldn't get angry, or that like sadness is this bad thing, even though we might not state to ourselves that, we think sadness is bad. The whole relationship to it is what is actually stating what we are believing about it. If we don't think sadness is bad, we aren't going to struggle and fight and resist it. And we have to be emotionally intelligent enough to stop fighting ourselves. So all of these feelings are impermanent. They are constantly changing sensations occurring inside your body, and it's not even possible for them to remain the same for even a second. So notice when you're fighting your emotions, you're trying to get rid of them, trying to stop them, you're grasping onto them, there's a sense of contracting and holding in tension happening. And it's this whole thing that is really the problem. It's not the feeling itself. It's more so just the relationship to the feeling. It's how you interact with yourself. Because right now, odds are you struggle against yourself a lot. There's a lot of tensing in your arms, gut, wherever in your body. There's a lot of just conflict happening that is not really necessary. Now, moving on, we want to move beyond our mind's ideas of the feeling and move directly into the raw experience as it is occurring. So this is not a very intellectual thing. Even though it might sound like it, it really isn't. Just remain with the feeling of what is happening. You want to bring your attention to pure feeling and leave it there. You don't want your attention to get absorbed into a thought like it's constantly doing. You want to just bring attention to feeling over and over and over again, just the sense of feeling continuously. So do not believe your thoughts about the experience. This is really important. Do not believe that this shouldn't be happening, or that my experience should be some other way, or that this person shouldn't act the way that they're acting. This is just, if you want to really heal yourself, this is not how it's going to happen. People are not ever going to just obey how you want them to be. Okay? People are going to do a lot of crap that you don't want them to do, and it's just going to be like that for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that you have to just put up with toxic people either. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when it comes to how we relate to our own feelings, we do not want to blame them on an external circumstance, because we're screwed then. We've just given our whole power to some set of conditions that is just beyond our control, really, which is the unintelligent move. What we want to do is recognize how we are relating to these feelings, relating to this situation, how we are constructing this whole way of being. We are constructing these feelings. It's actually our doing. We are not like victims of, our emotions. That's just not what's happening. Our emotions are communicating something to us, and usually a lot of suffering is communicating to us that there's something we're doing wrong in our life. Not in a moral way. I don't mean wrong in a moral way, but that our relationship to a particular circumstance, to a particular thing, is off. There's something to be investigated there. It's almost like a siren just going off. Whenever you suffer emotionally, there's something there that is demanding attention. And the more you are unconscious and distract yourself, struggle, fight, and resist it, and go into your beliefs, interpretations, and labels of the feeling, the worse it gets. And we have to undo that. The more tense you get about it, the worse it gets. You have to move into the actual experience, feel it, surrender, accept it, be honest, be clear, seek to investigate it, seek to actually become aware of what's happening. Now, I also want to go back to the idea of acceptance and surrender very quickly. People think that acceptance and surrender means being passive. This does not mean being passive. Acceptance and surrender simply mean allowing what has happened to happen. And actually, in some cases, this means doing something. If I slap you, your most natural instinct is not to let me slap you. It's to defend yourself. It's to move away from that situation. It's to get yourself into a healthier environment. Surround yourself with healthier people. If you have to speak up for yourself and you're not speaking up for yourself, there's pain there. It's painful. When you're letting people force things onto you, there's a sense of contraction and weakness. And if you really surrender to what's happening, you'll notice that your emotions are telling you to act. They're actually telling you to do something. If people are violating you, you will have feelings that tell you to act, not to sit idly and let them do bullshit. And then sometimes surrender can mean being passive, just letting what's happened happen without a real care or preference for what is happening. Like when you sit in meditation and you seek to investigate what an emotion is, what's going on. You just want to let what is happening happen. You want to let it unfold. You don't want to seek to control it. You don't want to seek to change it. You're curious about how it's naturally happening and how it's naturally unfolding. So this is a little bit complex because surrender and acceptance just sounds, I guess, kind of girly, airy-fairy, blah, blah, blah. But really, this is the most courageous thing you can do. To surrender yourself to the natural flow of the world. And that might sound like a hippy-dippy idea, but when you become aware enough, when you become sensitive enough to the present moment, you'll realize there is actually a flow happening. There is something going on that is beyond our ability to describe it. There is something happening that is just out of the realm of our imagination. It's beyond our mind's ability to capture it. There's something in our experience right now that if you are able to tune into it and open yourself up to it, is operating in a way that is almost like a guiding force in your life. And this requires practice, and a lot of practice really, to actually become conscious of this. This is not going to happen in 5 minutes watching a YouTube video. There is an actual instinct inside of you that is urging you to almost behave and relate in, I don't want to say a certain way, but in a functional way. Like when you suffer, this is a very clear indication that what you're doing needs investigation. That when you are continuously suffering, there's something you're doing in your life that is just not working out. Kind of like pain. Pain is a very clear signal that we shouldn't do something. Like, you burn your hand on a stovetop and then you take it off, and yeah, that's your body's signal that don't do that. Like, you're gonna, die if you hold it there. You're gonna damage yourself. It's gonna threaten your ability to survive. Same thing with our emotions. There's a quality to our experience that is constantly guiding us, and you have to develop the skill of listening to it. This is not a hippy-dippy thing. This is not an airy-fairy, fluffy thing. This is tangible, practical. No, tangible, that's not really the best word. But this is a very practical thing that can be directly observed by you. It's not really tangible. You're not really going to grab it and hold it and measure it like a water bottle. This is more so rooted in our instincts and our most natural way of being and in our sense of our authentic self. So I want to point out that everything I'm talking about in this video requires practice. This isn't something you're going to do in 5 minutes. You need to actively investigate what feelings are, how I'm creating this, what beliefs do I have that are creating this continuous emotional pattern, what actions am I doing that is continuously creating this emotional pattern. You want to actually take responsibility for what is going on inside of you. You don't want to just blame it on that or this or whatever. Moving on. The raw sensing of your experience is the experience. Okay, we're still working with raw direct experience and trying to move away from our beliefs, interpretations, and labels. The actual sensing of this experience, the feeling of this experience, is the experience itself. We want to use our feeling, our ability to sense and feel, to probe into our experience and be curious about what it is, which is not a very common thing for humans to do. So the thoughts about your experience are actually just fantasy. The thoughts you have about your experience are constructs. There's something you're inventing in order to have a sense of predictability and control over your experience, to create the sense that you really know what's going on. But when you tap just into the feeling of experience, it's like a new dimension starts to open up. It's a very different world now that you're living in. Everything is constantly changing. Everything is just this complex changing array of phenomena that is completely indefinable. So, in relation to a feeling, we usually have beliefs about it. And we want to notice what those beliefs are. And the best way is not by basically asking that's not a bad idea. Asking yourself, what do I believe about this? Great. But we want to notice our actual behavior toward the feeling. Like when we get angry and we start getting reactive and we don't like it and we want to change it, and we get sad and we eat ice cream and watch Netflix. See, now this is really giving away what we truly believe of the situation. This is showing us what we really think is going on. Because our mind can say that, sure, no emotion is bad. Okay, great. But how we are actually acting in relation to the emotion says something more fundamental about ourselves. And many of the beliefs that we have about our emotions are completely unconscious. They're just very, very below the threshold of our awareness. Now, a great example is, of course, the reason you run away from uncomfortable feelings is because at some level you believe that feeling is dangerous. You believe that this emotion is threatening, so you avoid it. But if we challenge that belief, and instead of automatically and instinctually running away from the emotion, if instead you do the opposite, you begin to move towards it, actively feel into it, get the sense that it's this constantly changing energy, like actually feel it and get that for yourself. Don't believe anything I say in this video. Actually get for yourself that what is happening is a constantly changing flow of energy and emotion. When you begin to get that, you will really notice that this isn't as dangerous as I thought it was. In fact, it's not dangerous at all. That actually, it's very safe to feel your emotions. That you might feel overwhelmed sometimes, your mind might not like it, You might think you might be losing your mind sometimes. But actually, you're safe. You're sitting down, hopefully sitting down comfortably, just feeling your emotions. You're not going to explode. You're not going to die. You're not going to go insane. These are all just beliefs, interpretations, and labels. These are all things that your mind is generating to keep you safe and secure. That it is very safe to sit down and actively feel an emotion. It's okay. It's okay. You can actually do that. You don't have to avoid it and run away from it over and over and over again. So that belief of feeling our uncomfortable feelings is dangerous, that belief can be proven wrong simply by feeling into what is happening in you and seeing that it is not deeply dangerous, that you can do this and you're actually safe. And the reason you avoid emotions is, like I've been saying, because you're scared of them at some level. You're afraid of yourself and you distract yourself from yourself. This is an incredible point that I don't want you to take for granted, and I've been trying to get at this a few times throughout this video. But now I'm going to be stating it in a much more clear way. I want you to notice the complexity of your direct experience. I want you to notice how your mind reduces all of the constant change in your direct experience, all of the patterns, all of the energy, all of the whole flow of your direct experience. It reduces that to a single label like sadness, anger, pain, jealousy. It reduces the complexity and the nuance of experience to water bottle, to hand. Let's stay with hand for a little bit. Feel into your hand. Don't even call it a hand. Just feel into what's happening. And immediately you can really begin to get that there is a lot of stuff happening, actually. There's a lot of sensations. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of activity. It's like hand is an activity. It's not this solid, fixed thing that is not changing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's very fluid. It's constantly changing. And it's, like I've been saying, active. It's an activity. It's happening. It's a doing. It's a flow. And when we begin to label our experience, it gives us the impression that it is solid, fixed, unchanging, not dynamic, but actually experience is extremely dynamic, changing 24/7, forever, constantly, moment by moment, very complex, very nuanced, and almost alive, really, like it's dancing almost. It's kind of metaphorical, but really it is very deeply fluid. And our mind doesn't really like that. Our mind likes the security and the comfort that comes with that sense of rigidity and being fixed. Our mind doesn't like this constant change. Our mind has a bias towards what we are basically secure with, what is familiar, what is known, what is predictable, what is controllable. And anything that is unpredictable, uncontrollable, unknown, we move away from, which is another uncomfortable feeling to investigate. And really, we have to notice how our mind is just oversimplifying experience. It's coming down to this. It's coming down to how our mind is just oversimplifying and attaching labels to what's happening. There's nothing wrong with labeling an experience like hand or sadness. It's very practical. I can communicate. We can make videos, and I can exchange ideas and information. But we really want to get that the beliefs, interpretations, and labels just aren't the raw, direct experience. There's a distinction to make between those two. And that your mind is very deeply, it's just looking for any sense of security. Your mind is very insecure, okay? Your mind is worried, it's anxious, it's constantly scared, your body's constantly tense, you're constantly fighting yourself, you're constantly struggling against yourself. And these are all tough things to be honest and clear about. And really, by doing this kind of emotional work, we're going to uncover a lot of stuff in ourselves that we would otherwise love to pretend is not there. But it's there. And unless you're honest, clear, unless you're doing this, it's going to go unnoticed for the rest of your life, and you're going to be stuck with this. With this. Unless you want to do 80 years of struggling, fighting, and resisting, I would recommend moving into more of this stuff. Moving into being very honest. And I have a playlist on honesty. I recommend checking it out. Step 1 to honesty is admitting to yourself that you're not honest. Admitting to yourself that you avoid yourself, that you deceive yourself, that you are afraid of yourself. You're afraid of becoming conscious of what is happening inside of you, which is why your body feels like crap, which is why it's fighting all the time. There's a constant fighting in your gut. There's just a clenching and a holding all the time. You attach yourself too rigidly to your ideas. You attach yourself to the first thought that comes out of your mind immediately. And I want you to become aware of that. I want you to become aware of how your thoughts are hijacking your freedom. How your thoughts are just manipulating and controlling you to just act in a robotic way. And really how all of your unconsciousness, really, it's not just your thoughts, it's all of your unconscious emotions, all of your unconscious instincts, and all of your most unconscious thoughts and worries and fears and anxieties and all this crap that is really driving a lot of your behavior. And that it is extremely courageous to do this stuff, to actually do that stuff. This is not an easy thing. Handling an uncomfortable feeling is not simple. To actually make a fundamental level change to yourself that completely changes your life forever is not simple. I'm not going to come up here and say, just breathe or blah, blah, blah. This is an actual root solution to uncomfortable feelings. And this has everything to do with being clear about how this part of our life is functioning and working. This has everything to do with moving into a deeper sense of connection with life. This has everything to do with not struggling against life, with wanting to honestly see clear what is going on. So I have a great book recommendation. It's called This Extraordinary Moment by John Aston. This guy is fantastic. I would highly recommend reading his book, This Extraordinary Moment by John Aston. You can find it on Amazon. Might be like $20, totally worth it. He does a fantastic job of really explaining some of the nuance and complexity of our direct experience that our mind is just overlooking and simplifying by using labels like hand or sadness or anger. So we relate to a lot of our uncomfortable emotions as though they're this bad thing that has to be solved and it's a problem. But really, we have to be asking, what is anger? What is anger from the perspective of our direct experience? What is the feeling of anger? And actively probe into and feel it and begin to really come into a sense of connection and unity and integration with all of these parts of ourself instead of struggling against them. So when you move out of your head, when you move more into direct experience, you're going to find a completely different world. You will find a vast world of very nuanced and ever-changing phenomena. Simply feel into this moment and just continuously feel into this moment. Basically, you want to move into your senses. Move into hearing as well. Move into feeling. Get the sense that reality is a fluid thing. that it's not this like tangible, hard thing, that actually the world we live in is constantly vibrating, constantly changing. It's not static and fixed and rigid. Our mind likes to perceive it in that way because that's what helps us to feel secure and survive and get the things that we want. But really, there's something deeper about human nature. There's something beyond survival. There's something beyond just scrambling to get the love that we want, to get the feeling that we want, to get the money that we want, to get the status that we want, to get the thing that we want. There's something deeper to human nature that we are overlooking and completely unconscious to because we are avoiding all of this, and instead we are doing all of this. We are struggling, fighting, resisting. We're completely lost in our mind, in our fantasy. We're completely distracted by dumb crap, and we're utterly unconscious. We have no desire to investigate ourselves. What is our sense of self? What is an emotion? Why do we have an emotion? Why is it there? What's it trying to tell us? Why is our mind constantly chattering? Why is my attention always lost in my imagination? These are some good questions to ask. How do I feel when my mind is wandering? Does that actually make me feel good? When my mind is just completely wandering, do I actually feel good? Notice how much of the mind wandering is really just self-absorbed. It's like you have a problem in your life and it just wants to make it better. A lot of our mind wandering basically is a way for us to analyze our life and try and change it and control it and manipulate it to get something that we want. So when our mind is just kind of wandering, we get self-absorbed into some kind of thing that is happening in our life, like a problem, a relationship problem, a career problem. And as they say in Zen, I think, maybe another Buddhist tradition, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. Now, of course, you can actually solve problems in your life. I'm not saying not to, but the fact that our mind is constantly at the center of our attention, hijacking our awareness, really, this is a red flag. This is something to be aware of. This is something to really, this should really intrigue you. You should be very curious about why that is. So that's basically it for this video. In summary, you want to be aware. You want to find the part of you that is aware. You want to be honest, and you want to be clear. You want to state to yourself what is happening. What is happening in my direct experience? I feel this way. It's here in my body, to my gut, chest, heart, wherever, in my head. You want to accept what's happening. You don't want to fight against it, struggle against it, hate it, demonize it. You want to accept it. You want to surrender it to it. And you want to actively feel it. You want to actively embrace what's happening like a newborn baby. And you want to move into your raw, direct experience when it comes to your uncomfortable emotions. You don't want to get stuck in your mind about it. You want to actually move into what the experience of the emotion actually is. You don't want to get stuck in the thoughts you have about anger or the thoughts you have of anger, really. You want to move into what the emotion is. And you'll find this wave-like, ever-changing, very intriguing pattern of energy, really. This just fluid, dynamic, nuanced, complex, ever-changing phenomena. And it's very, almost unspeakable, because the second you try and label what the emotion is, what the thing is, it's already changed. It's already a new thing. The second you've labeled it anger, all the sensations inside of you have all changed. They've all rearranged themselves. It's a different experience now when you are feeling into what it is. When you're actually concerning yourself with the direct experience, with what the thing actually is, and you're not concerning yourself with what your idea of it is. Because your idea of anger, your mind will just keep on saying it's anger, it's anger, it's anger. There's nothing changing. But when you move into direct experience, there's only change. There's only this flux and flow. And you want to get in touch with that. That is extremely important for getting in touch with. So you don't want to go unconscious. You don't want to do your usual patterns. Notice how your usual patterns really have you in their grips. How when you feel an emotion, you run away, you avoid, you tense up, you get scared. These patterns really have you. Like, you cannot untense your body for 5 minutes straight. They just automatically, you go unconscious and you tense up again. You distract yourself from this. You might even be struggling against this information that I'm saying. And you have a lot of beliefs, interpretations, and labels that reinforce this dynamic. And we have to uncover all of this, because our suffering and our uncomfortable feelings are ways that our emotional system is communicating to us that something is going on that needs to be investigated. We have to pay attention to what's happening inside of us. Bring awareness into your body. Leave it there for a moment. Leave it there for 20 seconds, 30, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Maybe leave it there for the rest of your life. But bring awareness into your body. Continuously investigate what's happening inside of you. And do it with an honest and sincere heart. That's it for this video. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section below. Other than that, take it easy.